Okay, welcome everybody out tonight to the planning meeting of July 17th. The first item on the agenda is public comment concerning any issue not on the agenda. Before we do that, I'd like to introduce Brent Waterman, our newest member of the Planning Commission. Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, is there any public comment concerning any issue not on the agenda tonight? Everybody's here for an agenda item?
Who do you complain with about bad neighbors?
Who do you complain?
To
To your
the neighbor.
To your neighbor.
I have bad neighbors that are bringing in helicopters every freaking night.
Oh,
That's the military, they won't hear you.
Wow. Heber City is not being very good neighborly right now.
I don't think they have a choice either.
Thanks,
That thing
okay.
has missiles on it, it goes where it wants.
Great, okay.
I've noticed that too.
Have you no, you can hear it at yours.
Yep.
Imagine everybody can hear that.
Yeah, it's all.
Oh,
They
man.
crashed my house too, I'm 5 miles to the east.
When my stuff starts shaking off, falling, my books fall off, I'm like,
Really, they're that close to you, huh?
yeah, I was like, oh, this is getting, the kids are all up. Told Eric, I'm about gonna go to the Heber City, say this is not being very good.
Okay, have a good trip.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. They don't have this few minutes to tell.
It's at the end,
Oh, sorry, okay. Since you can't help me, never mind.
it's at the end. Okay, that takes us item number 2, Mr. Kent Johnson, I don't see him here tonight. You wanna, what's the commission wanna do, go out of order? Skip over and come back if they show up? You wanna, yeah?
Well,
That's fine.
I'm good to skip over.
Okay, that takes us to item number 3, Troy Anderson, conditional use with the church in RA5 zone. We've had no communication with him since the original application. He hasn't withdrawn it, so it will continue to appear on the agenda until his application funds are expended. Then we'll look for a motion to take it off. We expect him to be here or to call, but we haven't had any communication with him. Okay. Takes us to item number 4, the Webb Trust. That's what you're all here for.
It's not going that fast, can we go back to 3?
Okay, we've been through the process and looks like we've had some closure, got everything lined up. Ryan, do you have,
I do have a stack of them here.
okay,
The
so,
applicant hasn't seen these because we were talking about it till just
Okay.
recently. These are the things you and I talked about.
Okay, very good. Okay.
so when we do that, we hand that to you in the meeting. We give you the option of not hearing it tonight. If you want to postpone, then that's an option to you guys. If we don't give you the staff report prior to the meeting, that's an option to you. So if you want to take a minute to look that over and if we want to proceed, that'll be whatever you want to do.
I'm sorry, can you give me a...
So when you don't have the staff report prior to the meeting, we give you the option of postponing till the next meeting.
No, we're good, I think, I'm just reading through it because I haven't seen it.
All right, then we'll go ahead and proceed
And then
then.
we can talk if there's, I'll
Super.
talk with Ryan.
Super.
On it, so.
Cutting to the conclusion of a presentation, I think these are all things that can be conditions if the commission is interested in recommending it for approval. I
Everybody get one
think
of
these
those?
items are not, fundamental flaws, they're recommendations and changes to the design. They could be conditions that you can either add to or subtract from. And
Are these extra?
yes,
Okay. Commission, so keep talking.
sorry, I'm trying to pull up the plan so that I can pass that out.
Okay. Didn't have to bring a plan, did you, Mel?
You know, I did, I think my kid took care of it for me, I had one just in case. I'll find it as soon as I leave.
Yes,
But
that's how it rolls.
I didn't bring the big.
I have it right here, if my
Okay.
computer will load. So, like I said, I was hoping item 3 was gonna take a little longer.
Okay.
I think it's a record to get to item 4 at 7:05.
Okay, so the stuff that was sent out to us did not have this plot plan in it then?
The stuff that was sent to you was the application?
We got the application, and then there was one that showed the change to the width of the easement.
Yes.
But not this one.
This was written off of that plan with the change to that.
So when are you talking about cul-de-sac and turnaround, and that wasn't on the drawings that I got? None of that was.
So here are the drawings that I
Okay.
believe were emailed out to everybody. These happen to have my comments on them. And I apologize, we can sometimes look to that, and tonight's not one of those nights. So 3,000 south here, I guess I'll do this twice would be the easiest, and then 3 times if you guys need to see your plan, the explanation. So 3,000 south is up here. These are the other existing lots. They have a 50-foot swath now through here, and they're proposing basically to run a road right down the edge, this edge, and then create 3 lots. So this is the existing condition, this is the proposed.
Okay, I mean, it's not a
So you can
problem.
see the road down
Yeah,
here
so
and
the
then the turnaround.
The adjustment you saw was on the
And
Casper
then 1,
parcel.
2, 3 lots.
They added back here, took off
Yeah,
the stuff.
this is the only one that I.
Yeah.
You did away with that.
All that was
Line
in that
turnaround.
email package.
Yeah, and so one of my recommendations is that instead of doing the hammerhead, that we do a cul-de-sac, and then that we extend this easement all the way to the south. And I talked with their engineer about the 50-foot easement would extend all the way to the south, and then this little wider part for the cul-de-sac would be a temporary easement, which I think is what I represented there.
I just want to clarify on that. So, yeah, I mean, right now we have a temporary, and I think we talked about just going, we could either go all the way to the end with the pavement, but we'd have to do some sort of temporary turnaround anywhere. Well, it probably makes sense is to do this temporary turnaround, and then if in the future that needs to go through, then like you say, you can just do everything.
Right, and so like we talked, normally we would come all the way through into the turnaround down here.
Right.
I think the compromise is we can do the turnaround here
Yeah.
and make that wider part a temporary easement, but the plat is recorded as 50 feet all the way to the end. And then this is a temporary that would go away if the road ever got extended.
So the desire, even if we build a private road, it's still, we need access, the town needs access, is that correct?
Right, so it's currently a private road built to the town standards, and the idea is that it's a public right-of-way, that if it becomes part of a town master plan, that the town needs to get in there. The water line will probably be public, so to get in there to maintain the water line, it would be a public right-of-way for the town. The road would be privately maintained unless it became the town's interest to extend to the road, in which case it would it would no longer be private.
Okay. I think, it'd probably be, I think that it'd be nice to be private, that if they, we just need to identify to whoever buys these, that gate could be going away sooner if it has to become a public road. So we just need to make sure it's covered somewhere.
Okay.
Or dedicate the road to the town, so.
Well, so one of my comments was that we dedicate the road, and then we'll describe it as, do the dedication, but describe it as a private road.
That works.
And that way the dedication is done.
Done, and then you just, if it turns into that.
Right. And that gives us the access, if we need to get down for the water line, we don't need a separate water line easement because it's in the public, the PUD.
Okay.
Everybody know what that previous is?
Can you explain it?
It's all good.
Probably can as good as me.
She's gonna pretend to be shy for a minute, and then get over it on the next item.
So I gave Gary my set of plans there.
These are the 3 lots, the 15-acre parcel back here, and this is the 50-foot private road. And what we were just discussing is that this 50-foot by however long it is, 50-foot by 740.75 feet, will be dedicated to the town as a town right away. But within it will be a private road, and a water line that goes back here will be in that right of way. So it'll be a public right of way, and then if we ever have the need to make that a town road, it's already dedicated right away. And I don't know that day will come, but if we do it, by doing it this way, that's what we've done on the other ones, and it preserves our ability to do what we need to do. Well, you will pass that around, so.
Private road. For those.
So you don't think the whole, all the pages came through, Gary?
I don't know.
Oh,
I
you saw this one,
I saw,
you saw 8 paper.
yeah,
For
saw
some,
this one.
for some reason, it's really, really difficult to open up a lot of these type of attachments for a lot of us.
Well, I made the mistake of opening it on my phone and then things went crazy from there.
Oh, yeah. You go check it for a phone.
I don't even get the attachments on my computer, I can see them on my phone, but that
Really?
doesn't do me much good. And it's mostly when it comes down the pipe through you. I'm not saying it's your problem, but it's some way that it's.
Well, it started there because I couldn't open it and I just pulled dry and I wasn't paying him a penny until I could see it.
I don't know if there's.
Now you can see it.
It happens
fixed
a
it.
lot.
He fixed it.
So I can draw the, conceptually what we're talking about with the right of way on the board if we need to.
You're fine, I just was wondering if there's, I should probably try opening these sometime since 5 AM in the morning. I
Yeah.
can call and say, hey,
Before
can you
coffee?
do something? And,
Well,
yeah, I forget about it by the time I get running.
if you'll let me know, we can print off a set and I can leave it at the office. I mean, if you want to print out 11 by 17s, we can print those out and leave them for you at the office to pick up, if that's better.
I'm good with what I've seen today so
Just-
far. I just,
I like to look ahead of time so that we
Yeah.
can move things along. and
I'd be
so
happy
we're
to
good.
pick them up at your office and deliver them to you guys.
No, we'll figure out.
I mean, but just future application, if you're having
Probably
trouble
be done.
reading it, we can print that out. I mean, the
I
office.
usually don't have
You'll be
problems, but I
Right.
download my phone.
We have an opening
like
on
two
it.
attachments. And
yeah,
when I got back to the computer, they weren't there either, so.
it's no fun to look at them on the phone.
She's not leaving, she's having fun.
She is. So I had a chance to review this. I think they've covered everything that we were talking about. So I think we're ready for a motion. If you guys, if there's nothing else to add to that, for recommendation to council.
Did the subdivision lots, weren't they required to be 5 acres or more?
5 acres prior to dedication, 4.65, 4 point something after dedication. And so when we were requiring them to dedicate the road to us, then that 5 acres becomes a slightly smaller number.
That became part of the road.
Yeah, so it was 5 acres prior to dedication, and now that difference is what's now the road. So it's still 5 acres gross, and so they have 15.3 starting, so they have more than 5 acres. All the lots are more than 5 acres if you don't accept out the road, which we're requiring them to do.
I haven't wondered that, but kind of should have asked. I thought the same thing, Kim.
So I'll just give you that number real quick here.
I believe it's 4.6.
These two.
I can tell you how we calculated it, I can't tell you what the answer is. So that one lot, to the furthest lot to the south will change, the acreage is gonna change a little bit with
4.6.
what we talked about, 4.6.
So that's 80704 is the code that's under.
Is gonna change just slightly because the new easement will go, make it a lot smaller, and then giving back part of the cul-de-sac will make it bigger, and so it'll change by a few square feet, but not very much. I didn't do the math on exactly how much.
But they'll all be in excess of that 4.6.
If it works out to be less than 4.6, we'll work with them to make it 4.6. I don't see that as, I don't see that as an issue.
Okay? Any more discussion? Seeing none, entertain the motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend preliminary approval on the Webb subdivision with the following general engineering conditions as stated on a letter from TO Engineers, July 15th, 2019.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? here? Get it? Okay. Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Hallelujah.
I just have one comment I probably should have brought up. It'd be nice if the Daniel irrigation easement through the middle of that was shown so that when people are building, they don't break the pipe. But I don't know if you know where it is, so,
Where the irrigation pipe is?
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
I'm just saying, it's nice if that's on the plat so that
All you
when
gotta
people
go from
build.
one header to the other, and it goes right straight up
Well,
to the
we
middle
could-
field.
You know what, we could put it on the plat. And probably, I don't know, the irrigation companies, I don't know if we're going through with the, I'm almost wondering, with putting it out in the road. But we could cooperate, if we knew other easements, we could actually identify it, put it there, pass the time, so if we need it.
I think you want to put, just show where it is, because
That's
I think
all.
the in the road conversation is a long way down the road.
Okay, we'll show where it's at and make
Yeah, and I
sure.
mean, it doesn't even need to be exactly, but it's just so that somebody knows that it's
They
there.
know it's there and it's on the map.
It's in a straight line.
It's a great
And
idea.
that's self-interest for me, because if they break it up there, then I don't have any water for.
Anybody bid for jobs?
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Condition down.
Okay.
Good. I think most of it is what we talked about.
Now we go to
Take
the
over.
I'll get it modified, I'll get it back.
Would it be possible to go back to Kent Johnson? I'm Deb Beck, representing him, and I'm sorry I didn't realize there was an
Is that
entrance
truck
on the
broke
side
down
of
again
the...
today?
I've been waiting at the front door for someone to show
So we got
up.
fixed.
Thank you.
Good. Fourth condition, and we love that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a person here for number 2. Commission want to go back to number 2 at this point? Okay.
Thank you. I'm Bev Beck.
Bev, will you come up here and just state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm Bev Beck, and I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And Mr. Johnson had intended to be here tonight, but he had an emergency with his son. And we had to take him to the hospital, so I'm here to try to get some information for him. Mr. Johnson approached me about selling his parcels. He has 2 of them, and it's just a little over 3 acres. I am a real stickler for rules and regulations, and so I started poking my nose into his parcels and what could be done with them. And I have had a conversation with Eric Bonker, and it was not my intention to be here before the planning commission. I'm not requesting anything. I'm looking for clarification and information. And what Eric gave me was the website to the code, and there's a lot of information in the code, and it was overwhelming for me. I did read enough to the point that I was amazed and astounded. If I've interpreted it correctly, that Mr. Johnson doesn't have the ability to sell his property with the option of a buyer being able to modify it in any way. I think that significantly affects his property value. And he built the home in 1987, so it is dated, and in our conversation, he said, you know, somebody might even want to tear the house down. And from what I've learned from the code, that's not something that's possible. Or it would void the non-conforming use that now applies for the property, which wasn't applicable when he first built on the property. At some point, he got approval to do what he did. He has sort of an L-shaped property, and one of the sections does not belong with the house, so the house sits on about 2 acres, and then there's another acre. And so the way I approached it was, what could we do with that acreage? That could we pull it off? Could we sell it? Could somebody build a home on it? And the answer I got was, you really can't do anything with it. He has grown hay with it or on it in the past. I don't know if someone could do that now. I don't believe, reading the code, that someone could put a horse facility on there, but I don't know that for sure. So I'm trying to wrap my hands around keeping myself and Mr. Johnson out of trouble when we sell this parcel. And so I am looking for some direction as to exactly what could be done with it. He's approaching 80, it's getting to be more than he feels he can take care of, and he has a home in Salt Lake, his family does come up and use it. He does have a full-time tenant in the lower level, so somebody is there maintaining the property. I noticed on the Wasatch County tax records that on that lot, he has been paying on a value of $204,200. And if that property if you can do absolutely nothing with it, I question that value that he's been paying on for all these years. So, again, I'm here for clarification. I apologize if I shouldn't be here and I should have worked it a little bit longer through planning, but Eric directed me here.
Where is Mr. Johnson's property? Do you have an address or?
There's Big Hollow, there's 3,000. So it's the White House there, and then there's that property next to Crest Groves, and then Eagles on the corner.
He's one in from the
Oh,
corner.
okay, so the house is here.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Eagles is at the corner, and then
That makes sense.
So, yeah, this represents the parcels right here. So this is the access to his home, and this is where his home sits, and this is deeded in the trust that is his as well. So same property owner, just deeded in a different entrance, or excuse me, in a different entity. So this, I don't know if he's grown hay on the back of it or just this one.
Let me look at that.
I don't know if he can put horses on it.
And those two parcels total 3.87 acres?
They're over 3 acres, but not quite 4, yes. And I don't know if it's quite that much, but I do have the information here to make that example. Well, it's 1.07 and 2.09. That's what I pulled off of the county records. So I have been tasked with selling the property, determining what the value of the property is, and what someone can do to it affects the value. Yes?
You know, from where those subdivisions came from and what year that took place?
1987 was the information that I got from him. It's probably somewhere on the county records as well.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was earlier than that, but
Well, that is when he constructed the home. Now,
Okay,
maybe-
that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking when those lots were created and from how large a piece and where.
I don't know that, and I'm not sure that he would know that.
I think that would make a difference, doesn't it, Eric?
No.
No, I don't see that it would.
You know,
For instance, if those lots were in existence back in 1965, that would make them different than if they didn't happen until 1987. Is that not correct?
What do you mean make it different? It wouldn't change the fact that it's a buildable lot, because it hasn't been maintained as a lot.
So that would not influence it?
It would not.
Okay, thank you.
I just
I'm gonna hand out this
have,
non-conforming uses. This is the non-conforming uses out of the code.
I mean, at some point, the Daniels City Code and zoning was created, and I can appreciate the fact that he fell into a non-conforming category, but at some point it was conforming, or he got approval to build. And for somebody to back up and say, okay, well, you could do that then, and you did it, and now no one can do anything else to it, but perhaps paint it, or add a new roof to it, seems a little bit disrespectful of his property rights.
My lot is exactly the same.
I feel sorry for you.
So is mine. But
So,
I don't understand the code myself and have
well,
questions.
and I'm sorry, are you
I'm Eric.
Eric? Okay, I had not met you face to face, but I know you're probably tired of dealing with me. And by the way, I sent you an email and it said, there's no one here.
Oh.
So, I apologize. We have to figure out what we can do with it and how I can represent it. And Ken has mentioned that maybe he may need to get his attorney involved if we need to get you information about when this parcel was created. I don't really know where to go from here. I only know that I can get myself in a lot of trouble and Ken in a lot of trouble if I represent something other than what can in fact be done there. So that's the direction I'm looking for.
Okay. We should break this up into two different parcels, because we're talking about the house, and then a vacant parcel, right?
They are two different parcels. They're recorded that way, but one individual with two different entities owns them.
Right. So the use is a residential use, and so this is what I was telling you, it's a use. That use, as long as it's maintained and continued for 12 months, it has to be discontinued for 12 months for that use to go away. So the house can be continued as a residential house, as long as it's maintained as such, for as long as it's in existence. So if they want to tear down the house and rebuild a new one, that's perfectly fine. It's the same use. The use has not changed.
So I did not understand that from our conversation or the code. So if someone said, I'm bulldozing this and I'm building a 4,000 square foot, 2-story home with this really cool garage, can they do that? Or does it have to fit the same footprint, the same square footage?
Yeah, it has a 20% on the lot
20%?
that can be covered. So and it has to meet the current setbacks.
And so 20% would be on the larger 2.3 or 9 acres?
No, we're just talking about the one with the house on it.
And that is the one.
That's-
That's 2.09 acres,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And so
It's a
So-
lot of square
only
footage to
20% of that can be covered?
Right.
Okay.
And so that's what the code states now. The use would continue on that parcel. That's not an issue on that parcel.
Okay, and so it's
That's-
just the 20% applies, not the square footage of
Right.
the property,
Right.
or the footprint of the property?
No, the footprint, you have to meet your setbacks.
Sure.
Okay.
Setbacks and height requirements.
Yeah, there's a height requirement also.
So you can't
12
5
and
stories.
20, 30 something,
23,
23 side yard, or?
23 feet tall.
No, that's
35.
35.
Yeah,
35 feet tall setback, 30 front and rear and 10 on the sides, but one has to be bigger than 10. And then depending on the road, sometimes the front setback is different. It's a front paragraph.
The house is set back quite far now.
Yeah, but you asked about the new house. The setbacks are
Sure.
generally 30, 30, and 30 front and rear and sides, but there's some caveats to that for narrow roads and other things. 100-foot setback from a railroad track.
Like the roads.
Some weird things, so check, read the full code on the setbacks, but that's what approximately the boundary.
So that would probably be not something I would get involved in, but I would send a flyer to the planning department and say, satisfy yourself that this is something that you can do, but I need to have a general idea of what can be done there. So that's an awesome clarification, thank you. So if the property is torn down and a new one is built and it exceeds the 12-month period and no one's living there,
Well, the permit can be extended for 12 months.
for another 12
Well,
months?
is that, the building permit can, but can
Yeah,
they not,
building.
can the use extend, or if they
If they're
tear the house
building-
down to the time they get the new house built, it needs to be less than 12 months.
Yes, it needs to be.
That's tough.
Takes longer than a year to build a house.
Sometimes.
Depends on the house and the
Depends on the
owner.
house. So,
Okay.
is there anything else I need to know about the home?
Is there anything else you
I
need to
think
know
one of the
about?
questions was, could someone add on to it?
Yeah.
As long as you keep that 20%.
Yeah, they keep the easements or the various setbacks.
As long as they comply with the code and it's still the same use of one
Right.
family,
Right.
one single-family home.
So, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Ryan Taylor, the
Ryan,
engineer.
um, So, I'm gonna have more questions, as I have a buyer that would come along and, so I'm not sure who would be the appropriate person, Eric, right?
You can talk to, Ryan's usually during the week, they're available.
So Ryan, it seems like you know the code really well and I don't.
Sometimes.
Okay. And maybe you could get an answer. Yeah.
We'd
and
be
do
happy
you-
to help.
Do you work Monday through Friday or just,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, Monday through Friday and sometimes on weekends.
okay, all right. So, I mean, that's less ominous than I thought it was going to be. There is an outbuilding on that property, so if that were torn down, it wouldn't have a bearing.
What do
It
you
looks
mean?
like chickens might have been there or a little storage unit.
What do you mean it wouldn't have a bearing? Would free up some of your 20%?
Well, yes.
It might
It
have
can
a
be torn
positive.
down without any repercussions.
Right.
Okay. Tell me what we can do with the other acre of land that we own, that we've been paying taxes on.
Okay, but before we leave that, before we leave the house, I wish you hadn't have said there was a tenant in the basement. This is a single-family dwelling zone.
And that's who's maintaining the property for him right now.
You're saying he's living in the upstairs and they got
No,
tenants
he
in
has
the
a home in
basement?
Salt Lake. He occasionally comes up for a weekend and visits and makes sure that everything is being done that should be done at the house. And the tenants are mowing and pruning trees and keeping the property acceptable. But he lives in Salt Lake,
Okay, caution on that.
okay? He can't come up. He can't come up and use.
Yeah, he can, I'm just saying caution on that. It's a single-family dwelling zone, so.
So if someone buys it and then rents the basement, that's not,
Not gonna work.
I understand where you're going. No renters.
So he has a renter in the house, has rented the whole premises.
Yes.
He comes up occasionally
The
to
whole
check on it.
thing, if he has a tenant, it's fine, but the whole thing needs to fall under that tenant.
Yes,
It can only be one person's primary residence or one family's.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, now, moving on. Are we okay?
So the non-conforming use, we've answered that. 20%, they can tear it down, rebuild it. Does it have to be done in 1 year?
Yes.
Okay.
So
That's-
to be a continued use,
Be a continued use, to maintain,
yes.
And you wouldn't work with somebody on that if they were 14 months out.
I don't know that we wouldn't, but we wouldn't want to.
So what we've done in the past is worked with them to make sure they don't tear the house down until the new house is approved, which helps a lot.
Is
So
that
we've
what
done the
that-
demo, and the new permit is one permit. And so they don't tear the house down until they're ready to go. And so the house may, you know, the 4-way or the CO may drag into 12 or 13 months, but at 12 months, there's a house there.
Substantial
And
compliance.
so it's, you know, but I think where we get into trouble is where we tear out the foundation, because we've done this too. We've torn out the foundation, made it an empty lot, and then
we lose.
then we
lose
start
3
thinking about
months.
what to put in, and so you lost 3 months there.
Yeah.
You lose 3 months for winter, you lose 3 months for doing the plans in the spring, and all of a sudden you're up against a wall and your 12 months is gone and you haven't broken ground. But if we leave the existing structure till you're approved and you bulldoze it and start framing that same week, we've had a lot of people be able to get it done in a year. And you're right, there may be, I'd have to go back and check on, did we issue the CO in 12 months or whether they were dragging the
Yeah,
feet, but
so that's-
there was a house physically
Yeah.
there.
Does that make sense to you, what he's saying?
It does make sense, but I
Okay,
think I still
okay.
need to put that caution out that whatever someone does, they should.
So that means that the builder is gonna be responsible for making sure the plans are approved. So that means good engineering, good architect, get the plans approved before they do the tear down, get both permits at the same time, right?
And we've done it as one permit, and so we have a lot of building permits to include the demo of the old house.
Because demo can go pretty fast, but if you do the demo and then get hung up in the permit process, you're gonna lose precious time.
Yeah.
Real easy.
Easy. They have to turn around the plans in 14 days, right? For plans inspection?
We do, yeah.
But if they have problems, if they have questions, that could be 14, then 14 more, then 14 more, every time they have a question.
Yeah.
So that means you have to, not you, but your buyer has to have all this worked out, or they're gonna be fighting about it.
Okay.
Ryan, what about an extension? If they're actually working on the new structure and some snag comes up or whatever, do we ever issue extensions to say, well, 12 months is up in 2 weeks, but you're about 6 weeks away from finishing? Does the town ever give an extension to
On the
cover
building
that?
permits we actually have that whole flow chart or timeline there on extensions of building permits.
But the point is that something is actually happening during that time process that we can see. It's not just gonna be torn down and then 5 years from now come back and say, well, you said you could, we could do this. Is that?
At that point, it's the council's decision, right? Town council.
Yeah.
It would not be us.
But as long as there's work going on and being done, the town has been pretty lenient with that, is that correct?
Well, that's not the use. Now we're talking about the use being discontinued for 12 months. The building permits we've extended.
Yeah, there's
We
two-
haven't brushed up against the use
there's-
issue.
Yeah, there's two questions. Can the building permit be extended? Clear answer, yes. What about the conditional, if no one physically lived on the premise for 12 months? I don't think we brushed up against that.
So if someone had a trailer, that's probably prohibited? It's probably in your code? Well, I'm gonna get that, ask that question, okay? Well, I'll just put my trailer up and live in it. I don't think so.
Yeah.
The most expedient thing would be to make your potential buyer aware that there are all sorts of things that they need to comply with.
Sure.
And to say anything less than that to them, it could come back to you.
Okay.
And I'd say we built some of the largest homes in Daniel that have been built in the last few years have all been built in one building season. So, I mean, if they've got their ducks in a row and a good builder, they can get
can
done
be-
very quickly. I mean,
There's some of them that have been pretty close to a year.
there's
But
one that built it himself that I think is on year 2.5, and we're still working on
Yeah,
some
if you end up
details.
with an owner builder, you could be.
There's
I was just
another
thinking
one
about
that,
the one that's west of me, I think that was about a year.
yeah, the one west of you is, he's coming up on a year, I think, that he's done, and it's been done for a little while.
Yeah.
And then there was another one that they just knocked it out. I mean, it was calling every week for inspections, and CO hit us before, you know. I was kind of used to the one next to you. Like, oh, well, it'll be a few months, and he's standing in there going, I'm ready for my CO, and the other guy, we didn't do a four-way yet. So it can be done with the right builder.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not even sure somebody would choose to do that, but I need to let them know what can be done.
Okay. That do it for the house parcel?
I think so. As I said, I'm quite certain I will be asking more questions. but
I believe
yes.
you.
This is a technical business that we have.
Okay, now let's talk about the lot that doesn't have a structure on it. So that's what this code is that I handed you.
Did I write that?
It's okay, you can write on it, George. If you look at that purpose on the very top of that. Yeah. It's 820. So you can see by the code that they would like to see that use go away and come into conform with the RA5 zone.
So there is no use. I have one.
There is the use that's been there, growing hay.
So it can't be used for that in the future?
Yes,
It could be.
can be used for agricultural, absolutely.
Can horses be out there?
Yes.
Is that agriculture?
What we're talking about is building a structure on that property that hasn't had a structure on that property.
Right.
So the town came into existence in 2006, 2005 actually. And we adopted the zoning from the county, which was RA5, prior to the town coming into existence. Which forces it into the non-conforming lot.
Okay, was that something that the property owners were made aware of when this happened?
When the town was made or when the zoning was changed?
Well, any of those, as a property owner, public notice, a hearing?
There was a lot of
Yeah,
public
they're all-
hearings and a
they're all-
ton of public notices, and I can't speak to the county one because I don't know when that was put in.
And that was in 2005?
That's when the town came into existence. I believe the town code was in 80, the county code,
Yeah, but the town just adopted the county code. We didn't change any of
change
the
the
rules at that time.
and the zoning.
So-
We adopted what was in place.
So it was already a non-conforming lot at the time the town became the municipal authority,
Okay.
land use authority, sorry.
So at the time he submitted plans, he would have had to submit those to us?
That was,
Prior to 2005, it would have been
Yeah.
Wasatch County.
Yeah,
And it would have been a non-conforming lot at that time.
but they approved it anyway.
In 2000.
We don't know what year that happened.
That's why my question is, what year did it get divided and from where?
So, I know that house was there when I moved here in 1986, so that's why I'm saying it may have been a little earlier than that.
I think this is gonna be a longer discussion.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take any more of your time. I mean, I really appreciate it. And again, I would take exception that he has been and you know, maybe should have been a little bit more cognizant of what was going on. But I think the value at 2042 is really a lot for the assessed value for a property that you can basically not do anything with.
Is that just for the 1 acre?
Yeah.
Has it been on Greenbelt or is it?
No,
No, it wouldn't qualify.
That's probably something that you'd have to take up with the tax
I will. And-
assessor.
And part of that was, you know, coming to the planning commission and understanding fully. But yeah, I think that needs to be rolled back some
Needs to be
way.
reevaluated by
Yeah.
them. They
Yeah,
obviously see it as something different.
yes, okay.
Good luck.
Unless you're paying off.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. Like I said, Eric, I know I'll have more questions and Ryan, I might be bugging you as well, but I'll try to keep everyone on track.
okay, we talk all the
Just
time.
your notice this year.
All right, well, thank you for
Usually everything
backtracking.
answered.
I know now we're gonna come to
Okay.
the meetings for the city again. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay,
Can I ask one question before we move on?
you bet.
No, I didn't want to ask before, but did anybody ask her if she has a water record for both the properties?
She indicated that he had approval on that property. They didn't produce any
That
documents
was
for us to
under
see.
email, but
Yes,
Approval on the property.
approval for a building on the property.
So they'd either need a subdivision plat or the certificate from the county.
That's where I say this, that was gonna become a long conversation, because depending on what documentation they have and what the county approved and when they approved it, why they approved it, would change our answer as to what that is or is not.
Yeah.
But does she understand that she needs to find that or not? That's what I'm confused about.
I don't know, as you can see, I had a hard time. She wasn't getting what I was telling her, and it just turned into,
Emails, yeah.
right, so it just turned into back and forth. And I was just like, you know, you can come talk to planning commission.
So
They'll tell you the same
I feel
thing.
like that maybe we should have said, do you have any of these articles or can you come up with them? So
And that may come up, because she did put that in her email that I forwarded out for you guys to review.
Yeah, I think it was subdivided at the same time as all of that along there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she understands that, and maybe we could,
well, I want you to explain it to me. What are you fishing for her to have?
well,
For the
a
1
lot of
acre-
record.
for the 1
A lot of
acre lot?
record for both the parcels, either one or the other.
The one doesn't
Or the
so much matter
subdivision
because it's got
plat.
the house on it.
Right.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if we even had to worry about that.
Well, the other one, to build on it, they need a lot of record, certificate or subdivision plat that's
Or
been registered.
Well, they can't build on it anyway, right? I mean, so.
they could if they have the things.
That's not true.
If
That's
the
not
county,
true.
if
If
the
you're standing there
county,
with a lot of record, that doesn't guarantee your building permit.
No,
We've done it before, haven't we?
That has happened in the past.
we
Yeah,
we
that's
still
not
have to
guaranteed.
meet all the requirements for the lot. It's got to have your side lots. Yeah.
Doesn't guarantee it, but we could discuss it with them and
We could.
not send them out of here scratching their head still wondering what they're doing.
Well, they still would be, because that has to go to the council. Again, that's administrative action. So that has to go to the council.
Well, I still,
So,
I feel like we didn't
yeah.
tell her everything we should have.
Well,
tonight.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually one of the points in one of the lawsuits, that they come to the meeting and somebody said that. If you have a lot of record, you can build on it, and that's what they're going on.
Well, I wasn't gonna say you can build on it, I was gonna say, do you have a lot of
Yeah.
record? Do you have the subdivision plat?
Yeah.
Then we can talk more about it.
Yeah, so
Right
that's,
now, we send her out there saying, no, you don't have any options, I feel like.
we can only go, the burden of proof is totally on the applicant. So you can only go off of what they produce, and I said that in the email. I can't speak to that document because I haven't seen it. So I don't know what that means.
We send her out with additional contact information and people to follow up with, so I think that she can get those questions answered without taking the planning commission's time. So, and then, I mean, Eric or I can ask the questions, we can look at the documents, and we can help get to where you guys can see what you need to see and make a decision.
Okay.
But I agree, that a lot of record is the council, not us, but we can try to fish out what's available so that the council at least gets the whole story, it doesn't have to do the fishing.
Okay, well.
I have a question.
I've,
Is this
like I
property,
said,
Do that, Tom, man.
It's
is
been a
it
couple of
like
weeks since I've read that
Hilton's?
email, so I must.
What?
Is this property like Hilton's was, where who knows when it just got changed?
Well,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't know, I'm just thinking there's, Mark's
Chance.
property, all of that along there got
Yeah,
subdivided at some
same
point,
time.
and I'm
Oh,
guessing
that-
at the same time, based on the property descriptions, and I could be totally wrong.
because that's why I wondered, was it all one big piece and then he did like they did, just make it another
Well,
parcel?
At one point, it was a 160 acre piece, and
Or
1887
whatever.
or whatever, and then it's been split from
And then it
there, but
dwindled
who knows
down?
how?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, all right.
Is that
Thanks, Ryan.
quarter section? But,
Okay, that takes us to conditional uses in the town. We got through the P-160 last time. Barely, but we made it. So that'll take us tonight. What do you guys want to do? You want to set a time limit again?
yeah.
Okay, what's your time limit?
An hour.
No.
Half hour.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay, 20 hours? Okay, if we get lost here, you just tell us when you've had enough.
Pretty close already.
Had enough.
You're setting the time.
Are we gonna tackle the RA5 tonight?
That would be the next one I'm going through. I believe that will probably take us longer than 30 minutes, because we have a lot more RA5 than we do P-160.
Well, let's take a first cut at it and see how far we can get.
Okay?
I'm hoping you have copies.
I had a copy in my other binder, I didn't bring it, just realized. I made a binder just for all the code. Dang it.
I hope I have copies too. Let me see here. Okay.
So just for fun on that 2 acres, you could build a 22,500 square foot house on one level.
No, it'd be twice that.
No,
20% of 83 or 80,
I thought it's 56.
it's 43,560 per acre. So 43,560
So then
twice.
it's only 8,000. 20%, no, it would be 16,000.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
Pretty bad.
Of course, that includes the barn and the garage too. Keep that 20%.
Accessory building, I guess what that's called, under a barn or a garage.
Yeah.
Okay, so we included the permitted in that list too. We decided we would go through permitted also, as well as the condition
Okay,
as we went. Is that still correct? Okay?
That would help us
Sounds
decide
good.
what we could use and, or use and not reuse.
Yes. Okay. So the principal uses, single-family dwelling detached on one parcel. Residential facility for handicapped persons, of course that's permitted because of state law. Railroad right-of-way, highway, street right-of-way, underground electric, underground gas, underground water, irrigation, distribution, water pressure control, underground sewage pipeline, sewer pumping stations, storm drain, playgrounds, parks and trails, field and seed crops, orchard and vineyards, large animal for personal use, limited to 2 per acre of ground. Animal specialties for personal use, pasture and rangelands, horticulture specialties, animal husbandry services, and water areas. Okay, those are the permitted ones. So here's the conditional. Residential facility for the elderly. You want to go one at a time, discuss them? What do you want to do at this point?
As we go through them, can we, if somebody says it ought to go, we stop and decide whether it ought to go?
Okay.
First cut through.
Before we do that, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That we, in order to, in the interest of saving time, that we start from what we already selected for the 160, and just transfer that across to begin with, and then see if there's any more in addition to that?
Well, I think they were different uses is the problem with that.
Well, or any that correspond, can we just automatically transfer over to the RA5?
I think Eric, but Ryan was gonna kind of work on something that would blanket some of them things.
Yeah,
Make sure we had that covered before we finished.
but he didn't have time to do that because he's buried right now with
Yeah.
well going in a Storm Haven, which is completed, by the way.
Good.
How deep?
I think 220, I'm not sure on it, but we had hit good water and they did a pump test on it and it turned out really good, better than expected.
Good.
So the drawdown was only 12 feet, or 60 gallons a minute,
150 minutes.
160. So it looks like a pretty good well. Was expensive.
How deep is it?
I think 220, I think is what it said. But I know it was scheduled for more and they decided they have enough water to stop. Because we had it bid out for another 30 feet and they stopped 30 feet short. And it says we're just in the same bedrock, we don't think we're gaining anything. So it was quick, it was a fast drill. It was a weed tops,
By expensive, what does that define as?
300,000.
300,000? How, what diameter?
I believe it's 6.
6.
And we are being billed 300,000 for a 220-foot deep well?
That doesn't sound right.
No, it does not.
That was a low bid.
Really?
Yeah,
I bet it's bigger than 6 to get that much water out of it.
I'm pretty sure he said it was 6.
But you gotta remember it's a wet year too, next year it might not be anything.
Yeah, next year.
Trey, it is a well. It is a well. Oh, I didn't say I threw that in, but I didn't. I can't remember who drilled it, I thought I threw it in that.
Wow.
That's like a lot, doesn't it?
I mean, I've had 3 wells drilled. And the last one was probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Man,
I bet it's more.
what's that?
I bet it's bigger than that.
Could
It's
be
gotta
maybe
be.
8.
It's gotta be. I don't think it's 6.
They put the pump in, did the test, and it's, Ryan just said tonight that he was up to the water, division drinking water, trying to get it approved, so we hook it in. We have a serious problem up there right now. Everybody's using a lot of water,
Yeah, right
a
now.
lot of water. I mean, they're allowed 8,000 gallons up there a month, and there's 50,000 gallons going through there.
Per household?
So, no,
Oh.
there's $400 and $500 bills up there all day long last month, so. Yeah,
And they're not batting an eye at it or?
they're
Oh, they
complaining,
are.
but they're still watering along.
Well, you got a $300,000 well to pay for, so.
Yeah, definitely, that's what we'll be doing, selling water. Now, the people on the upper end are actually running out of water, so they're sucking it dry. That's a super small tank, which we knew we needed a tank, but we couldn't get to the tank because until you have a source, it's not in the floodplain, they're not gonna flood the tank, so. We're working our way through it anyway.
Well done.
Back to the farm.
Yeah. So residential facility for elderly, and again, I would remind you that we're trying to eliminate conditional uses. That's what the training's all going towards. The courts have said if you have a conditional use, you cannot keep them out.
You can what?
You cannot keep them out. If there's a conditional use listed here, they will be coming. You can put conditions on them, but no matter what conditions you put on it, they can fight that condition, and the courts are letting them in the zone.
Isn't there state law on that first one, on the residential facility? for the
Yes,
elderly?
there is.
So what about, does it restrict size?
It restricts, no, it doesn't. Ours does, our own code does.
It doesn't say anything, you're right.
But the state law says they can put one in there, whether we have it listed or not.
No, but I mean, how big, how many people?
So, which lawsuit you want to talk about? The one in
I
Duchesne?
want to talk about the one we're gonna have,
So far, we have one with 12.
12 max.
And then they got their license for 12. Then they asked for what they asked for, what's the license we gave them? Reasonable accommodation to 24.
Double?
Oh, this wasn't a residential, not for the elderly, that
Not
was,
for the elderly, that's for the other one.
Yeah, but I'm saying the elderly one too, I think the state has.
It'll be the same,
Yeah.
yep. So they got reasonable accommodation, of course, is you have to reasonably accommodate them. In Duchesne, Duchesne just got sued. They wanted 56, I believe. And they turned them down, said that's way beyond anything that we have. The court says you will allow 56, and matter of fact, you will not regulate them at all. And you'll, 42 million? So the state come down on pretty hard. So there's several cases against that.
So, we might as well move on to bed and breakfast.
Okay, bed and breakfast. Anybody?
How big?
Well, the thing that's kept bed and breakfast away from us is fire protection. So we had a couple of applications up in the Baker home, applied for it, and there's no fire protection. So once you get to that point, the fire department has to sign off, and they're requiring sprinkle and as part of that.
So they have to have a tank?
And there's some other limits in the code too.
There are,
Okay.
but that is slowly going away as we develop the water systems, the fire.
I would just as soon vote that out, bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast. Okay, I have one for out. Anybody else?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have two for out. Any for stay? One for stay, two for out, two don't know.
Yeah, I haven't decided on that one
Okay,
I'll vote stay.
stay, two and two.
yet. Let it stay.
Okay,
3 to 2.
3 and 2. Let's stay. Accessory residential unit.
Is that a mother-in-law apartment, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, so we allow them in with within the main structure. Our code allows it within the main structure with, what is our, I'm just gonna read it to you.
Eric, if we have need of complying with the low income, as we've talked about in previous meetings, this would be kind of a salient point, wouldn't it? If it's something that we need to have to comply with, wouldn't that be something we should allow as a secondary building and it qualifies as low income housing somehow?
So are you talking within the main structure?
No, a second building.
So what we run up against is sewage. So you're on a septic tank, you have one tank per 5 acres. If you allow another residential, then you're up against the pristine water classification of the county. Because that study that they did required 1 per 5 acres unless the sewer system's put in.